The final chapter on JFK. Chapter 16, Segment 2, The Rifle Rebuild.
Segment 2, The Rifle Rebuild. And I hope you like our segment card. It took quite a bit of effort to find and locate lipstick on a pig. But that's exactly what happened in this case. Rather than living with a defective weapon and admitting it, the Warren Commission, with its sister agency, the FBI, decided to rebuild the weapon. The problem that we have as assassination researchers is we know that parts of the weapon were rebuilt, but we don't know when, how, who, and the only way we found out any parts of it is there'll be some slip in an FBI agent or other person's testimony when they were talking to the Warren Commission. For example, when they were talking about shims for the rifle scope, which didn't work. So they tried to use shims to adjust the scope to make it work so a person firing the weapon would be able to see their target through the scope. And we find out that they actually had a gunsmith work on it. And chances are, if the gunsmith was working on the scope, the gunsmith was probably working on the hair trigger, probably working on the bolt, probably working on the rusted action, probably replacing the spring, probably cleaning the barrel, and of course, fixing the fire pin. But we don't know whether all of these were repaired or replaced or not. What is known is that after the assassination, the FBI ordered at least 3 Mannlicher Carcanos from the same sporting goods store that the Warren Commission Exhibit 139 was purchased from, and that's Klein's in Chicago. And we know that one of those rifles was used for the FBI in some of their tests, and that was Warren Commission Exhibit 250. But we do not know if the parts from the other rifles were used as part of the replacement and repair on the alleged Kennedy assassination rifle and then taken off after the fact. Once the FBI got their hands on the alleged assassination rifle, we know that various tests were run. The first was a machine rest test where the rifle was just locked in and it was fired for accuracy only. And after that, additional tests were conducted by FBI marksmen and then Army marksmen. What we do not know is that what all of the work was done to the rifle before each test, and whether the work that was done to the rifle stayed with the rifle or was changed out after the fact. But it is clear that the gun was cleaned, everything was oiled. The internal mechanisms were most probably replaced or repaired before any shooting was done by any sharpshooters. The difficulty is that aside from indirect testimony during the Warren Commission hearings, the exact time, in the exact place, in the exact work that was done on the rifle is not known except for the shims on the telescopic sight. That was known because they could not fire the weapon at all, even attempting to hit a target, until an FBI gunsmith came in and put 2 shims underneath the scope, attempting to have it line up so shots could be fired and there wouldn't be serious misses with the weapon. But of course, even with all of that work, it didn't work. Interestingly enough, perhaps like many of the other rebuilding practices on the weapon itself, Mr. Simmons reported to the FBI that he saw the shims when the weapon was being used, and after that, he was aware that they had been removed. Why were they removed? there would not have been any reason to remove them unless they were trying to make the rifle original again after they used it for their tests. This, of course, would be like having a small racing car, taking the engine out, putting a bigger engine in, when the race is over, showing the racing car again with only its small engine. How did the Warren Commission solve the problem of the defective weapon? Well, according to Mr. Eisenberg of the Warren Commission counsel, he handed FBI agent Frazier Warren Commission Exhibit 250, and he says, "Are you familiar with this rifle?" And he said, "Yes, sir." "Can you briefly describe it?" Frazier says, "It is an identical rifle physically, but not identical in terms of its quality, its cleanliness, its lubrication, its trigger pull, its scope, its iron sights." So they got a replacement. And that's what, of course, the FBI used for their tests. As indicated in the National Archives document number 305146, in a series of numbered exhibits, this one entitled Duplicate of Lee Harvey Oswald's Mannlicher Carcano Rifle used by the Federal Bureau of Investigation for ballistic testing. This, of course, begs the question, why would anyone need a duplicate of a Mannlicher Carcano rifle for testing if the original worked? For all of their work on the rifle, Warren Commission Exhibit 139, they couldn't make the pig pretty. They couldn't fix the problems they had, and it still was a pig with lipstick on it. And as a result, the Warren Commission was so desperate that they had to get a substitute rifle to run some of their tests. With that said, I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next segment, which is the tests.